A barefoot farmer steps into the most powerful building on earth. The United States Capitol. Marble floors. Suits worth more than his village. Translators whispering in his ear. He does not read. He does not write. He does not speak English. 30 years earlier, people from his own village tried to destroy his land because they believed he was insane. Today, members of Congress and international scientists sit quietly, waiting for him to speak. His name is Yakuba Sa. He did not come with charts. He did not bring data models. He brought a story about holes. Not metaphorical ones, real holes. Thousands of them. Dug by hand, in a place where digging was considered suicide. To understand why this moment matters, you have to go back to a time when West Africa was dying. In the 1970s and 1980s, the Sahara region experienced one of the most severe droughts in recorded history. Rainfall collapsed by nearly 80%. Rivers vanished. Wells dried. Crops failed year after year. Over 100,000 people starved. Tens of millions fled their homes. Entire villages emptied as the Sahara Desert marched south, swallowing farmland that had fed generations. Scientists declared the region doomed. They said the land had crossed a point of no return. The soil had turned into hard pan, a compacted crust so dense that even iron plows could not break it. When rain fell, it did not soak in. It ran off like water on concrete. Agriculture, as the modern world understood it, was impossible. The response from the outside world followed a familiar script. Experts flew in. White trucks with logos rolled across the dust. Tractors arrived. Chemical fertilizers. Hybrid seeds. Irrigation systems. Billions of dollars were spent. And almost nothing changed. In many places, things got worse. Heavy machinery compressed the soil even further. Chemical inputs washed away with the rain, leaving the land poorer than before. The Sahel was treated like a broken machine that needed better parts. But it was not a machine. It was a living system that had been stripped of life. While this was happening, one man was walking in the opposite direction. While others fled the countryside to survive, Yakuba returned to it. He had once been a trader, successful by local standards. He could have stayed in the city. Instead, he went back to his ancestral land in Burkina Faso, at the peak of the drought, when farming was considered madness. What he did next made his neighbors certain he had lost his mind. During the dry season, when the sun baked the earth into stone, Yakuba began digging holes, not shallow scratches. Deep pits. One by one. Day after day. When people asked him why, he gave an answer that made no sense to them. He was reviving an old technique, a forgotten method used by his ancestors long before colonial rule, long before tractors, long before fertilizer bags with foreign labels. The method was called Z. Most people had abandoned it because it was slow, exhausting, and offered no immediate guarantee. Yakuba did not just copy the old technique, it changed Italiano. He made the pits wider. He dug them deeper. Then he did something that crossed the line from strange to unforgivable. He filled each pit with manure. In a place where livestock waste was precious fuel, he buried it in the ground. People laughed at him. Elders warned him. Some said a man who digs holes like this is as useful as a man who hangs himself. Others accused him of violating tradition. Some accused him of witchcraft. When nothing he said could stop him, they tried something else. They burned his fields. They tried to erase his work. Yakuba replanted. He dug again. He did not argue. He did not protest. He kept digging. What his critics did not understand was that the manure was not there to feed the plants. It was bait. It attracted termites. And termites, in this environment, were not pests. They were engineers. Drawn to the organic matter, the termites tunneled deep beneath the pits, breaking through the hard pan that decades of drought had created. Their tunnels aerated the soil. They opened channels for water. They created a natural underground irrigation system that no machine could replicate. When the rains finally came, something extraordinary happened. Yakuba's fields drank the sky. Every drop was captured by the pits. Water sank deep into the ground, sometimes more than a meter below the surface. In the neighboring fields, untreated and crusted, water barely penetrated half that depth before running away. Yakuba's crops survived. Everyone else's failed. This did not make him a hero. It made him a target. His success embarrassed people. It challenged authority. It exposed the failure of experts. So the press had increased. He was ostracized. His forest was burned. He was told to stop. He refused. Over the years, he refined the system. He added stone lines along the contours of the land to slow runoff even further. He began planting trees directly into the pits. Trees that fixed nitrogen. Trees that dropped leaves and rebuilt soil. Slowly, impossibly, life returned. By the 1990s, Yakuba's land no longer looked like the Sahel. It looked like a forest. 40 hectares of thriving woodland stood where barren desert had once stretched to the horizon. Birds returned. Insects returned. Animals that had vanished generations earlier came back. The microclimate changed. Shade cooled the ground. Moisture lingered. The land healed itself. Farmers began to notice. Curious at first. Skeptical. Then desperate. In 1989, 13 farmers from neighboring Niger visited Yakuba's fields. They went home and started digging. The following year, another drought struck. Once again, crops failed across the region. Once again, famine loomed. But the farmers who used sea-harvested food, the results were impossible to ignore. Crop yields increased by 100 to 500%. Groundwater levels rose by an average of 5 meters. In some places, wells gained 17 meters of water. Villages that had lacked water for 8 months of the year suddenly had it year-round. In 2019, when a catastrophic drought destroyed nearly 3/4 of the region's corn, Zai farmers survived. This was not theory. This was not a pilot project. This was reality. A scientist from the World Resources Institute later said that Yakuba's impact on restoring the Sahel exceeded that of all national and international efforts combined. Think about that. Decades of aid, billions of dollars, advanced technology, and the land responded best to a shovel, compost, and patience. So why did the world forget Zai in the first place? Not because it stopped working, because it did not generate profit. Zai requires no purchased inputs, no synthetic fertilizer, no proprietary seeds, no machinery, no fuel. It depends on local labor, local knowledge, and biological processes that cannot be patented. The global fertilizer market is worth over $200 billion a year. Farmers using Zai need none of it. Termites fixed nitrogen for free. Soil biology does the rest. During the colonial era, European administrators dismissed these methods as primitive. They pushed cash crops instead. Cotton, peanuts, crops that required external inputs and tied farmers to global markets. Dependency replaced resilience. When international development agencies arrived decades later, they brought solutions that justified budgets and consultant fees. Teaching farmers to dig holes with local materials did not fit the model. Even today, companies are trying to mechanize Zai. Motorized pit diggers, fuel-dependent tools, expensive equipment. Each addition moves the technique away from what made it powerful. Yakuba understood something that modern systems often ignore. Solutions that truly work tend to be simple, and simple solutions threaten complex economies. Yakuba taught anyone who would listen. He charged nothing. For 40 years, he shared his knowledge freely. He believed knowledge locked in one place was wasted. He believed land could heal if given the chance. You do not need permission to apply this lesson. If your soil is compacted, if water runs off instead of soaking in, if drought is your enemy, this is the blueprint. Wait for the dry season. Dig pits 20 to 30 centimeters wide and about 15 centimeters deep. Place the excavated soil on the downhill side to form a small berm. Add a handful of compost or manure, not for fertilizer alone, but to invite life back into the soil. Let insects do what machines cannot. When the rains come, plant crops, trees, whatever your land and your needs allow. The effects are measurable. Soil moisture doubles. Root depth increases dramatically. Over time, groundwater rises. In the first year, yields improve. In 5 years, water security changes. In 20 years, landscapes transform. Yakuba named his forest Bangara, the Forest of Wisdom. You can see it today from space, a deep green island surrounded by brown. His family still fights to protect it from development. Yakuba died in December 2023. He did not leave behind wealth. He left behind proof. Proof that deserts are not created by nature alone. Proof that restoration does not require advanced technology. Proof that remembering can be an act of resistance. A village elder once mocked him, saying a man who digs holes is as useless as a man who hangs himself. Decades later, those holes fed hundreds of thousands of people. They called him crazy. They burned his land. They tried to erase his work. He kept digging. The desert does not care about money. It does not care about theories. It cares about water, and water will always follow the paths we give it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is ignore the world telling you something is impossible and pick up a shovel anyway. This is lost nature, and this was one of the truths they tried to bury.